overshadowed in all the news and focus on Donald Trump is the WikiLeaks leaks of thousands and thousands of emails from Hillary Clinton's campaign staff over the years. And it's actually a big story because it certainly suggests some of these leaked emails that all the things that people are concerned about, that she is somebody who says one thing in private and another in public, are true because that was written in one of the emails where she talked about having a public and private position. But on a more fundamental basis is the fact that all of these leaked emails exist and are being leaked, apparently, according to U.S. officials, by the Russian government. Joining us right now is Evan Francine from FRSecure. He is an information security professional. Evan, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Esme.
All right, let me ask you, do you feel, as the U.S. government does, that the Russians are behind this?
For me, and I think for most of, the listening audience, I think that's really speculative. I'm not sure what evidence they have right now to blame the Russians. It seems, sort of convenient.
Well, that is something that's possible, and I think certainly the Trump campaign has indicated that. But it does certainly, obviously, and I know there's a lot of controversy about Hillary Clinton not, maintaining the secure server that she was supposed to. But the bottom line is, it seems like it's pretty darn easy for anyone's emails to get hacked. Is that the case?
Well, unfortunately, that's true. Email is one of the easiest and most effective ways into an organization. So that's sad but true.
Now, and I think most of us have, what's happened to me, and what happened to one of my child's teachers this week, where you get this odd, bizarre email from somebody that and you think that really couldn't be from them. And then half an hour later, you get a note from the real person saying, my email's been hacked and ignore that and don't open it. What's going on there? Because that happens a lot.
It sure does. And, we're at where I work, we're an information security consulting company. So you'd think we have very strong security controls here, and we do. But even despite having those controls in place, we still get those same types of emails occasionally coming through. So then it comes to, how secure am I as a user of my email?
Well, what advice do you have for people? Because, I'm in these things where I've got to change my passwords every 5 minutes. And at one level, it's sort of frustrating because then I forget what my password was and I get confused between my different emails or whatever. But is that one of the things that can help protect you, is to have a complex password that is changed on a regular basis?
That's true. Yeah. And I think one of the things with passwords, I think there's just some misconceptions on what is a strong password. What makes a password the strongest really is the length. So the longer you make a password, the stronger it'll be. So it doesn't have to necessarily have all these fancy characters in it, which makes it harder then for you to remember. If I make it long, then, so it's easy to remember. Long equals strong when it comes to passwords.
And then, I guess we should be careful about what we put in emails, clearly.
Yeah, sometimes, some of the things we consult, just users all the time and participate in a lot of training. And some of the things that we see that are troubling in terms of just behaviors and habits, people have a tendency to click on links that they shouldn't click on. People have a tendency to open attachments that they shouldn't open.
And what are, sometimes it looks, if it's something like that looks like it could be pornographic, that's a giveaway. But sometimes it's a little more innocuous about, I'm trying to think of one that I ended up clicking on that was bad, but it was, I think it was something like your account may have been compromised or something. It was something like that. I'm like, oh my gosh. And then I go on and it's bad. How can you tell?
Well, for me personally, I'd rather delete a legitimate email on accident than open one that's infected. So I err on the side of caution. If something seems a little fishy, if I'm getting an attachment that I didn't request, or I don't normally get an attachment from this person, I might just delete it.
Really? Any other thoughts in general about who might be most vulnerable? Also, financial information that you have. I don't think anybody who's listening to us right now hasn't had a credit card that was compromised. What makes somebody more vulnerable than somebody else?
Well, in the case of the WikiLeaks and all that, if you're more public, if you're a more public figure, that's going to make you more of a target. So sometimes it makes sense to stay lay low a little bit, fly under the radar, and for most people that's pretty easy for us to do. Another thing, we have so many different accounts, and that's one of the things that we hear often from our users is, I'm supposed to have a different account for every, or a different username and password for every account that I have. I can't keep track of it all.
I actually have a lot of trouble with that. I just had to reset my password again because I reset it yesterday and was having some problems with my phone a couple of days ago.
Right, and I'm in the same boat you are. I'm a user just like everybody else, and so what I do is I don't treat all of my accounts the same. There are some accounts that I just don't care if somebody hacked it. So I classify my accounts. Some of them are low sensitivity. I don't care if those accounts get hacked. Then I make medium classification. Those are accounts where it's going to cause me some heartache and it's going to cause me some damage, but I can quickly repair that damage. So for instance, like an Amazon.com account, that would be a medium sensitivity. And some people would classify that as high, but I would classify it as medium because it's pretty easy to repair the damage. I can get a new card from my bank. I can change my password on my Amazon.com account, but the damage is pretty limited. Now, the last classification is the high classification. Those are things like maybe my online banking account.
Well, that's something too. I mean, how often are those compromised?
Well, I guess it depends on the user sometimes, but those accounts are the ones where I do choose different passwords for every one, and every one is very strong. And I protect those because it's going to be really hard for me to get that back if somebody compromises that password. So I guess my advice would be not to treat all of your passwords, all of your accounts the same. Really focus on those accounts that are the most important and critical to you.
How about social media and people hacking into your social media, because that can do damage as well?
Yeah. And in my own classification, I classify those as high sensitivity because my reputation means a lot to me, and it'll be difficult for me to get my reputation back. So I choose very strong passwords for all my social media accounts.
Right. Because I know people who that has happened to, and it's created huge problems. In other words, someone gets into their social media account and they start writing about somebody else, and it's not good. And then they have to sort of unravel it and explain. And it's just, depending on how quickly you catch it, it can be extremely problematic as well. Is there anything being done sort of in terms of research to try and improve this? Or, I mean, obviously that's what you do. Or is it, are the bad guys doing just as much work as the good guys?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a cat and mouse game. Here at FRSecure, we take it personally that difficult challenges with information security we set out to solve. So we are working on solutions. We're trying to implement biometrics, which is like fingerprint scanning instead of choosing long passwords and having to keep track of all those things.
Well, that would be great. You mean to have a fingerprint scanner to get you into an account?
Right, like if for the iPhone users who are using, yep. So there are technologies to do that. They're just still a little bit expensive, but if you can afford that, that might be a good option.
Wow. And is that fingerprint technology? Because you sort of wonder about that. Could that in some way could they steal your fingerprint, or in some ways short circuit the software inside the phone so that another fingerprint can get into it?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose you could. The likelihood of that happening is very much less. So when we're working with information security, we're not trying to stop all bad things from happening. We're just trying to manage risk as best we can. So we're trying to find those things that are less likely to happen and then implement those types of technologies.
Okay. And any other advice you have for people about whether it's, the kinds of emails they should be wary of, or you've done a great job with the passwords, anything else that people really should be on the lookout for?
Any passwords that are so knowing that I've got these really sensitive passwords that are important to me, any email that I get that has a link that's trying to prey on one of those really sensitive passwords, I give additional scrutiny to. So number one, you really have to stay aware. Just pay attention to what's coming in an email. Don't be so quick to click links, to open attachments, and choose long passwords as much as you can.
And is it, I was a victim of identity theft where my Social Security number ended up getting compromised. That was a nightmare. But the law enforcement traced it to what they believe was an organization in Florida that was somehow trolling, something. It was some group in Florida, they thought, but they weren't able to pin it down or whatever. Are people ever caught who do this?
Yeah, they are caught. Usually the people who steal the information are not the same people who use it. So typically there's a middleman. So an attacker would steal the information and then sell it to somebody else who would then use that to compromise or steal your identity. So sometimes somebody in that chain does get caught. Where it makes it really difficult to catch people is when it's people in other countries, it's people in Eastern Europe where we don't have subpoena power. We can't get all the evidence, but they do catch them occasionally.
And we're chatting with Evan Francine. He is a top security information security professional with FRSecure. One of the things that I've done stories on are skimmers, credit card skimmers, whether it's at gas pumps or just the portable ones that get your credit card information. Are there similar devices that kind of, if you're sitting at a coffee shop using the Wi-Fi, that can snag your email and everything on your computer?
Yeah, you bring up that's another type of attack that attackers carry out where they will sniff all of your traffic. So if you haven't protected that well at a coffee shop like a Starbucks or a Caribou, it's possible for an attacker to see some of that data and even manipulate it at times. That's called a man-in-the-middle attack.
Right, and can you protect it if you're using their Wi-Fi?
You can. It sort of depends on what you're doing. So for us here at FRSecure, when we're using a coffee shop Wi-Fi, we might choose to VPN, so virtual private network, into our home office first. So then all of our traffic encrypted from end to end. So even if you did sniff it or capture any of that traffic, you wouldn't be able to see what we were doing. And
how would you do that? I mean, let's say I don't go into coffee shops that much and use their Wi-Fi, but I know a lot of people who do.
Right.
How can you get it into the VPN?
Well, VPNs are provided by a lot of employers. So if an employer has given you a laptop and, to work from home and things like that, they've probably got some VPN software installed on that laptop. And so you'll want to use that. And the purpose is to protect that data that you're sending back and forth through their Wi-Fi. On a personal laptop, there are VPN software clients that you can purchase online, and there's even some free ones. And you can certainly contact FRSecure, and we can, point you in the right direction.
Right. Well, I know, for instance, I know that WCCO television and radio does have a VPN, to protect our accounts here. But for instance, on my phone, for example, I've got my personal email, which I don't think has a VPN, and then I've got the my work email as well. So I think that's the part of the problem too, is we've got so many accounts, which is what you started off by saying.
Right. Yeah.
It makes it very difficult. Well, listen, Evan Francine from FRSecure, great information. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me, Esme.
All right. Absolutely.